this former Apollo 14 astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, was on a radio show over in England, and he says that for 6 decades the government's been covering up the fact that aliens do exist. Guess who's joining us on the phone? Dr. Mitchell, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Dr. Mitchell, you've walked on the moon, you've done so much, you've had a fantastic career. How long have you known that we've had contact with aliens?
Well, the rumor, see, I grew up in Roswell, where the so-called Roswell incident took place. So the local lore I've known for 60 years. Mm-hmm. But, however, as a result of my astronaut experience, some of the old-timers, I call them the old-timers, I've never had a first-hand experience. I mean, I've never seen the UFO. But some of the old-timers of that period who were hushed up thought I would be credible, and they wanted to pass on their story before they passed on. So I was contacted, and I was told their stories many years ago.
Okay, Edgar, who are the people who told you there were aliens, and how would they know? well, because some of the people, I'm not going to give names, because some of the people were just locals involved in the so-called Roswell crash when that happened. And also, my folks were ranchers in that area, and we knew all the ranch people. So people who saw something.
Beg your pardon?
People who saw something.
Some of the people who saw something and were in military or intelligence activities at that point, and were under very severe secrecy oaths at that point throughout their life.
Because, Dr. Mitchell, that was my whole point when we discussed this earlier today, was what kind of secrecy document would you have to sign if you were given this type of privileged information?
In those days, there wasn't a document.
Yeah.
They were threatened. I mean, there was real threat. You're not going to talk about this.
What, from the government threatening?
Yeah.
So do you think that other people now will come to the forefront since this is being discussed again, since you're bringing this?
I think it's about to, because there's been a lot of very serious and good investigators working this problem for 50 years or more.
I mean, you realize this is the story of the century, if it's true.
Well, the fact that we have not alone in the universe, that's a very important story.
In early 2010, a team of geneticists in America began DNA testing on possibly the strangest looking skull ever discovered. Whilst trying to recover its nuclear DNA and matching it against the National Institute of Health database, they found a significant number of coherent base pairs that have never been seen before. This was an historic moment for science, as it proved beyond all reasonable doubt that part of the skull's DNA is not human. Since that result, the geneticists have predicted that when the final genome recovery is complete, it will provide science with the first record of alien DNA ever discovered. It was found in Mexico in the 1930s, and through carbon dating, we know that the skull is over 900 years old. It has over 24 major physiological differences to that of a human.
These are the cuts in the skulls for DNA testing, and you see that the star child, when I've been saying it's half as thick, you see very clearly here. In some points it's even less than half, and this is, you know, in the skull. So I mean, there's just no exaggeration there. There's a complete difference in the bone throughout. Uniformly, it's different.
This is the biochemistry of a typical human bone. Its calcium and phosphorus levels are high, and its oxygen and carbon levels are low. But with the star child it's quite different. The phosphorus is down and the carbon and oxygen are up, indicating its biochemistry is more like tooth enamel than regular bone.
This is a scanning electron microscope view of the bone, and this is the way bone is created. You have the cortical layer here, and in here are the cancellous holes where the bone marrow moves. And coming out of some of the cancellous holes, but also embedded in the matrix of the bone, are these fibers, these very durable, strange fibers that nobody's ever seen before. They're in no other species, and we don't really know what they are, but we just know that they're really durable because the Dremel blade that cut this through here did not cut cleanly these different fibers. That tells you they have a high resistance factor to the blade.
It lacks frontal sinuses, has smaller chewing muscles, and is missing an inion. Instead, its neck connects on top of its frame and magnum opening indicating that its neck is about half the size of a normal human neck.
Normal human bone, when you die, there are bacteria in your body that scour and eat every bit of your marrow out, and they leave your bone polished, shining, just like this, just like you see. You could eat out of that just like the bacteria did. It's so clean. There is no marrow left anywhere, and this is the way it is with all animals when they die. With a star child, we see a big difference, and we also see a difference in the color too. It's much more milkier than that alabaster look of the human bone, because it's got so much more collagen. But you see this red residue here sprinkled everywhere. We don't know what that is. Never seen it before, and it's not in any other species. In January of this year, a geneticist contacted me out of the blue, and he said, I think you really might have something. And he said, if you send me a sample, I will take a new technique, a new shotgunning technique, which recovers much smaller pieces than the old primer technique. So he took it. About 6 weeks later, he got back in touch with me, and he says, you're really not going to believe what's happening here. I don't believe it. I've done it enough times now to where I'm convinced that I'm doing it right, and we're getting some very unusual results. Some of it comes out human, sure enough. You see right here, this sequence of 265 base pairs long, 265, no question about it, part of the star child is human. Except, next slide, some of the star child's DNA comes back with this incredible reading. No significant similarity found. 342 base pairs long. It's a coherent base pair sequence not found in the NIH database. I said, well, what's the answer? And he says, well, it could be, and here's where we go off the deep end, it could be that it's an alien, entirely an alien, born to a human mother. And I said, what? How would that happen? How would you get a pure alien born to a human mother? So he made up a slide for me and sent it to me. And he said, now understand, this is happening today. This is happening today. If a human female has mitochondrial disease, which means that her mitochondria are bad and are going to produce very, very flawed and dead children for the most part. If it's found out that she has that and she wants to have a child with her mate, her husband, what they can do is they can take her package, put it in a dish, you've heard about this, and mix it with her husband's sperm and create a zygote with her chromosome package and her husband's chromosome package. Then they take an egg, a good egg from a third party, a woman, take that woman's chromosomal package out, put the zygote in, put that egg in the first woman, and she will have a baby that will be her and her husband's genes, but it will have the mitochondria of the third woman. So he said we could have the same thing. You'd have two aliens getting together, making a zygote, and for whatever reason, taking the chromosomal package out of a female egg, putting it in, and then she will bring it to term, and it's a full alien, nothing but alien DNA in it, but it has her mitochondrial, human mitochondrial DNA. Now, why? Why would they do that? We don't have any idea. We know this is a radical thing to say. We know that it's going to be met with a lot of resistance because it's going to prove that we don't just have a hybrid between a human and an alien 900 years ago. We have clear genetic engineering, clear evidence of genetic engineering 900 years ago. It's a much bigger pill for science to swallow, and it's also going to cause a much bigger revolution in thinking among everybody because it's going to be very hard to wrap minds around this.
There are misidentified flying objects in the skies constantly, and the military's technology is probably 40 years in advance to what we know now. With that being said, some of the videos sent to us at Third Phase of Moon are not UFO military drones by any means.
Light years from Earth. Star Gliese 581. It's about the same age as our sun. And orbiting it, this planet. It's just the right distance from its sun. Any closer and water would boil away. Any further and it would freeze. Ideal conditions for life to have evolved. And if comets have struck, delivering water and organic materials, then life, complex beings like us, even civilizations like our own, could be down there, right now. And if there are, even at this distance, they could be tuning into our TV signals, watching shows from 20 years ago.
And here's your host, Joe Duckman.
But until future generations can find a way of communicating over these vast distances, all we can do is speculate. Us and them, living parallel lives, unaware of each other's existence.
Major sighting here
on the 13th of March. Weird happenings in the skies over Phoenix recently. And no one seems to be able to explain what it was. And now,
suddenly 6 amber orbs in a row, totally equidistant from each other, massive span across, pop up.
People say they saw strange lights, a series of strange bright lights seen over the skies of Arizona. Gets a lot of people wondering what the...
Many investigators call it the largest sighting ever, lasting the longest amount of time, seen by the largest number of people.
In the skies over Jerusalem. And why did it stop over one of the most treasured sites in Christianity?
There's a new video this morning that some say may be proof we're not alone in the universe. A UFO in the form of a bright light is seen descending over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The video is said to be taken over the weekend. Then suddenly the light shoots up into the sky. Here you see it. Another video from a different angle appears to show the light doing the same thing.
Because, you know, critics, it's difficult for them to dismiss this because there are so many different angles. We've got 4 different videos, all from various perspectives, but they do not know of anything like this in the Israeli army.
All right, because listen, I don't like to be scared. I just can't take it. It's, you know.